We demystify what goes on behind the therapy room door. Join us on this voyage of discovery and co-creative conversations. This is the Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast, with Bob Cooke and Jacci Jones.
Hello.
Welcome back to the next episode of the Therapy Show Behind Closed Doors with the wonderful Mr. Bob Cooke and myself, Jacci Jones. And this is episode number 196.
Oh, fantastic. We're getting towards the 200, Jacci.
I can't believe it, Bob. We've been doing this for 4 years, I think now it is. And what we're going to be talking about in this one is, what do we say after we say hello in the therapy room?
Well, marvellous, Jacci Jones. What made me think about this title was the book.
I
So
thought I had this book and I've been looking for it and I think I've lent it somebody. I can't find it anywhere. Yeah.
for those people listening or watching the podcast, as you will know by now, if you're regular listeners to these podcasts, that our trainings, myself and Jacki's first trainings in psychotherapy was in the world of transaction analysis, which is a model of psychotherapy. And the originator of transaction analysis was Eric Berne, and he wrote several books. His first book, Transaction Analysis Psychotherapy, in 1961, and then he followed that up by very famous book and very well-known book called Games People Play, followed by another equally important book, Principles of Group Action. I'm not sure that's the title, actually. Principles of Group something, and that was 1967. And then this book, this title, What You Say After You Say Hotel, What You Say After You Say Hello, is the title of his sort of fourth or fifth book, and that was in 1969. And what I like particularly about this book, and why probably it deserved a title of our podcast, is it's a book about script, really. And script in TA language is an unconscious life plan that everybody forms with a beginning, middle, and end. And it's made outside their awareness very young in life. And it may change according to certain developmental traumas or not that we have. But the book itself, in 1969, What You Say After You Say Hello, is a very accessible book. It's not like his academic book, really. The first book on transaction analysis in 1961, which is fairly academic, and it's fairly it's not so accessible as the book on script, which he calls What You Say After You Say Hello. In other words, when you started to make the script. In 1969, the 1969 book here we're talking about is very, very accessible.
Yeah.
And easy to,
like my kind of book.
very easy to read. It's very
It's not a big book either, from what I can remember.
no,
It's not,
very
yeah.
small. I don't know how many pages it's actually. Maybe it's only 100 pages. But it isn't like the academic textbook in 1961. It's all about the idea in TA that we make our plan or our life plan outside awareness very early in life. You know, Eric Berne and many authors, by the way, not just Eric Berne, talked about existential issues, really deep core issues that are pivotal to our existence. That's why they're called existential issues. They're psychological issues like death and loss and mourning. But the idea that we make very early decisions about ourselves and other people. So Eric Berne came up with a whole, well, actually, he didn't come up with the grid called, where you put those 4 existential positions in. I forget who, I think it was Frank Ernst came up with the idea of a grid to put those 4 existential life positions. I'm okay, you're not okay, I am okay, you're okay, 4 existential life positions about life. So at the beginning of our script or life plan, we make very rudimentary decisions about whether we're okay and whether the other person's okay, or whether we're not okay and the other person is okay. And that forms our very early plan about how we see the world and other people,
Yeah.
which Byrne calls script. And that's what he talks about in the book, What You Say After You Say Hello. So when we meet somebody or what we have decisions about them, and then what happens in life is formulated by our early decisions or existential decisions about ourselves, other people in the world, which forms how we then move on in life.
But we move around that grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not just stuck in one box and there's no hope for us or whatever. Depending on the situation and the person and how we're feeling that day,
Yeah, we may
can
move
around. Yeah, yeah.
So, the 4 positions: I'm okay, you are okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay, you're not okay.
yeah.
I'm not okay, you are okay. And then my future position of all, I'm not okay and you're not okay. And
We
you're
don't
right,
want to be in
move
that.
around them under stress. Most healthy one, of course, is I'm okay and you're okay.
Yeah.
We do move around, you're correct. However, we have a favourite corner
Yes. Yes.
that we may occupy more than others.
Yeah.
And so, for example, when we meet somebody, we may very quickly make a judgment about whether we feel safe and secure with this person, and whether we feel okay or not okay with this person, and whether they're not okay or are okay.
Yeah.
And then that sort of provides the template of what happens next in life, which is what the book says, what you say after you say hello.
Yeah.
That becomes the continuation of our script, which you've already written, by the way.
I like it because it's a really easy way of putting it into somebody's thought process. I use that grid an awful lot when I'm doing educative psychotherapy. It's usually on my whiteboard, and do you know what I mean? And getting them to look at the different positions. And like for me, I don't know if I was in school or whatever, I would always be in the I'm not okay position, just because that's how it was, and in a work situation, my boss would always be okay and I wouldn't be okay. I was always in a one down situation. But being aware of that has a massive impact on how you respond and react to people.
Yeah, because it gives you choice.
I was just about to say, yeah, being aware of it means that then you can choose, do I want to continue being like this or not? Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you say after you say hello?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It gives you more options, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's very important because given that example you have just said. So if you have an awareness that you come from a victim position or a passive position, like I'm not okay, you are okay, that will determine how you think, feel, and what your next actions are with that person. And
Yeah.
it will determine how you see the world.
Absolutely. And the opportunities that you have, if you're always in a one down position, you're not even looking for opportunities, never mind making them or accepting them if they're there in front of you.
Absolutely. So let's give you a clinical example, right, which determines this title of this podcast in a way,
Yeah.
my thinking. Most clients that came through my door, through my career, not all clients at all, but because they come from perhaps different existential positions. But I don't know the percentage, but a lot of these clients came from I'm not okay, you are okay, or I'm not okay, you're not okay positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
let's pick one. I'm not okay. Either of those positions, I'm not okay, you're not okay, or I'm not okay, you are okay. Now, from that position, as you just said about yourself, they come from a psychological position of feeling an underdog.
Yeah.
They won't value themselves. Their self-esteem will be low.
Yeah.
and they will project onto the other person, usually a person from their own history. If they're going to come from I'm not okay, you are okay, then that will be a projected person. Or I'm not okay, or you're not okay, they still be a projected person. So they walk through my door from a I'm not okay position. The way they then address me, and so they say hello.
Yeah.
Whatever happens next comes transactionally and non-verbally will come from how they have started their script. In other words, what their existential position is. They will expect me to fit in to how they see the world.
Yes. Yeah.
So what you say after you say hello will be determined by their own psychological position. Now that's really important because several things come from that. Number one, for a psychotherapist, if they think about script and think about things the way I'm talking about here, when the person says hello, how you answer that becomes important. Why? Because you can answer it with the knowledge that you're coming back from how you think they will think about things. So, or you could come from another position, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Now, I always think about this because if I say hello back to them, yes, then I'm thinking about, oh, I wonder if people in their history accounted for them. Are they expecting me to start thinking about them in a not okay place?
Mm.
Or do they expect me after the hello to start defining them? Just as their script was in life.
Yeah.
So that determines the treatment in a way, doesn't it, Jackie?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, I would imagine, because they're so used to it being a certain way, that if you do something different, one of two things can happen. One, it can unnerve them because it's not what they're expecting. Or two, they kind of ignore it because it's not something that they're witness to ever, if that makes sense. You know, when you were talking in the last podcast about accounting for them, that can make somebody from a one down position feel really uncomfortable because they're just not used to it happening to them.
Yeah, here's a good example. So for most of my career, I would say new clients or clients have even been coming some time. I would say, hello, how are you? And would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah.
To new clients or even, so people got used to me asking, do you want a cup of tea? Now I did that for many reasons. One was to account for them. B, for them to hopefully see me in a positive light.
Yeah.
And C, I like a cup of tea.
Yep.
I like a cup of tea as well. Right, about, I don't know, I've been doing that for about 10 years or so. And I started to train people. And one of my trainees said, oh, I went down to Oxford or wherever it was. And I was talking to a psychoanalyst, I think, down there. And I don't know why she was talking to psychoanalysts, but anyway. And they were talking about her therapy, and they were talking about her psychotherapist, and they were talking about me, and they were talking about, somehow it came up that I would offer a cup of tea as a which, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the psychoanalyst was aghast. And she said, I never would offer a cup of tea to my clients. Right? The opposite of what I do. The reason, because it encourages what she called infantilization.
Wow.
In other words, you're assuming they can't make a cup of tea for themselves. So if the therapy treatment is about self-agency, taking ownership of their own power and empowerment, you're actually encouraging the opposite. Was her position.
Yeah.
So she never offered a cup of tea. She had handkerchiefs, you know, boxes of tissues in the room, but she would never offer them. She would expect the person to get it themselves. So there is interesting if you think about script, isn't it? What you say after you
Absolutely.
say hello is interesting, given the two different positions of the mental health practitioner.
But in my mind, as soon as you started saying that, if you're coming from a one down position or an I'm not okay position, you wouldn't ask for a tissue and you wouldn't get a cuppa.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
It's interesting, yeah.
So what you say after you say hello is more complex than just the title.
Yes, yeah, a
Mm.
lot more. And I think that's one of the things that I learned from transactional analysis is the, the impact and the weight of conversation and transactions and the different layers that there are to it. It's not just the words that we're saying,
No,
it's the intention we have behind it and how it's received by the
that's right.
person and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. So I love the reality television program, which has become very popular at the moment of speaking, called The Traitors.
Yes, yeah, I haven't watched
Heard
this
of it?
the last series at all. Yeah.
You know what I mean by that series?
Yes,
You
yeah,
watched
yeah,
it at all?
yeah.
Okay, you have watched it, yeah?
I've watched the first one, but
Yeah.
I haven't watched the
You know
latest.
the
Yeah,
concept.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
there's faithfuls and there's traitors, and the object of the game is that, of course, if somebody wins £100,000, whatever it is, and it could be a traitor, it could be a faithful. I applied for that.
Did you?
Yeah, okay. And I didn't. There was 200 in the last series, the first series, and 200. I got acknowledgement from the program maker saying 250,000 had applied, and they'd let me know. And of course, they'd never let me know, so I didn't get on it. But it's what happens is a focal part of this is the 24 people sit around a. Besides all the tasks they do, they sit around this big room in a circle, and they banish people according to if they think they're traitors. They hope they've caught a traitor. Now, following the theory we're talking about here, how a person transacts is really important in thinking about whether they come from a powerless place, a duplicitous place,
Yeah,
a placatory place, or they're attempting to manipulate you.
yeah,
How a person transacts and what they say after they say hello. So from the moment you meet all the other people in the game, what they say after they say hello, verbally or non-verbally, becomes actually pivotal in working out the personality of the person that you're talking to.
yes.
And I think it's the same in life.
Yeah, but we're not aware of it, Bob, are we? If you're
No,
playing the game, then obviously that's what your focus is, and you're looking for these, things and everything. But that's what we do in real life. We just do it out of our awareness.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's partly what we do as therapists, to help them become of what they do outside their awareness
yeah,
actually determines what happens next.
absolutely.
So I am a huge fan and believe that what happens outside our awareness and our unconsciousness determines our script and position in life psychologically,
Yeah.
and determines what we say after we say hello and who we surround ourselves with in life.
Yeah, because one of the things with the script, unless you're in therapy and you want to change it, is that we invite people into our life that reinforce the script that we've got about ourselves.
Absolutely. And it forces those psychological positions that we have decided upon early on in life,
Yeah.
which may be very detrimental to our quality of life in later years.
I've got a friend who 34 years, I think we've been friends. Something popped up on Facebook at my daughter's wedding, which was 10 years ago, and I said that she was 24 years my support. So now it's like 34 years. And she was the first person that actually acknowledged my ability to do things. You know, I was offered a job as a lecturer at Stafford College, and I wasn't going to take it because I didn't think I could do it. And
Mm.
she said, why would they offer it to you if they didn't think that you could do it?
Mm. Mm.
And she literally was the first person to actually see past all of my scripty stuff. Yeah.
Mm. And that's the therapist's job, isn't it?
Well, she's my therapist then. For 34 years, she's been my therapist.
I think it is really important for a therapist to think about what you say after you say hello
Yeah.
as a way of thinking about the psychological process verbally and non-verbally, which supports their often their unhealthy script and unhealthy plan in life. And to think about also, you know, what the clients project onto you after they've said hello
Yeah.
and who you are for them in the drama of life.
Yeah. Which is frightening, really, because we don't really get a say in that first instance of what do you say after you say hello. They've already made certain assumptions about us or made decisions about us and everything without us playing any part in it.
Oh, absolutely. But and tell me what's frightening about that from your perspective.
Because we don't really get a say in it. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the thing.
Oh, well, we don't get a say in it when they first come. I agree with
No. But then as therapy progresses, we obviously we do, and we can, bring into their awareness and, all that sort of stuff. But in that initial meeting, it's like first impressions. You
you.
only get one chance at making a first impression.
I used to watch Blind Date years and years and years and years and
Yeah.
years when it was had Cilla back on.
Yes.
We're talking about 40 or 50 years ago. So I'm sorry for people who've seen Blind Date with the later people. But anyway, I used to watch it. And that was a program where, you know, somebody chose somebody blind, if you like.
Yeah.
I don't know, some sentence constructions and conversations. And why I'm to mention this to you is because I have the complete opposite thoughts and feelings to you. I'm very excited as a therapist. I know they're going to come in the way they come in, but I'm excited at the changes I can make, which
Yeah.
convince them to know a different script. And it's the same Blind Date. If I was waiting for somebody to choose me for whatever reasons, I'd be really excited that my conversation could implement them to pick me.
See
So
again, Bob, you're obviously in a one-up position. I'm coming from a one-down position in this.
a
Yeah.
psychotherapist, that is the beauty of this profession. That by definition, coming through the door, they have challenges and difficulties and problems in life that they want your help to help them change. That is such for me, that is why I entered this whole profession.
Yeah. Oh, it is exciting. Absolutely.
Change, to
Yeah.
be somebody that can perhaps help them change,
Yeah.
have an impact in their life, a positive one. That's been the purpose of my life for the last 38 years. And thank God I've been in the career I've been in because I hope I've helped people. So for me, I've never felt frightened. I felt excited, but I do understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. It's just that we don't get a say in it. The response, reaction, opinions of us are in that first
But
second.
how does that matter to you, Jackie?
Why does it matter to me?
Oh, how it matters to you? What? So, we
Well,
take it.
yeah, exactly.
Taking
So
my red, they coming in a state of vulnerability that I do. Yes, I've got you. I understand.
yeah,
The
yeah.
complete stage, I understand. And it's interesting that the difference.
Yes, yeah. And again, it's just those layers of the transactions that take place, you know, verbal and non-verbal and body language and everything, all in that one snapshot.
Mm.
It's, yeah.
So what I think, what you say after you say hello in the concepts of where we're talking is important for psychotherapists to think about, and actually, as you go along, clients to be aware of.
Yeah. And again, you know, going back to the last podcast that we had on reviews and reflection, I've never done it with one of my clients, but it would be really interesting to go back and say, what was your first opinions of me when you met me?
Yeah.
And to just reflect on that.
Mm.
But, you know, I've always said, I don't think I'm a typical psychotherapist the way that I dress or anything. My perception of a professional is that they wear a suit and they're very smart, and I'm a jeans and t-shirt kind of girl. You know, those sort of assumptions that people make. Yeah.
Yeah, and that determines their psychological positions after you've said hello.
Yeah. Fascinating, Bob. So what we'll be talking about next time, and I love it when you give things a number because we never stick to it. What next time is 5 therapy books that therapists should have on their bookshelf. But I have no doubts that there will be a whole lot more than 5.
Somebody's got 2,000 bloody books on their bookshelf.
Well, yes.
I'm really talking about, you know, the pivotal ones.
Yes. But we'll see whether we stick to 5 of them.
Yeah, and for all the therapists and counsellors listening to them, I apologise beforehand, because I'm sure we all have different opinions and thought processes. But I'm looking forward to talking about that and honouring the authors that have had influences on my life.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too, Bob. So until next time, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll be back next week with another episode.